Я подтверждение ситуации передаю настройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another edition of AK Korner, brought to you by Pioneer Arms. This is episode 4.
All right, guys, we're back, and that's our good buddy Schwell with the intro there. Welcome in, Schwell.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
All right, so this is the long-anticipated episode 4, or part 4. I know we call them episodes or parts. I think parts are better. Of the Talking Lead AK Korner presented by Pioneer Arms Corp. Make sure you guys checked out last month's episode where we had David Fortier, and he was just a wealth of knowledge on ballistics, among other things. I mean, he's a great historian as well. He was bringing some facts from history in with the conversation last week. So I think we'll probably get David on again in a later episode because he's still got a lot more information.
Yeah, we didn't scratch the surface last month.
No, he was. I mean, we were still talking to him, probably an hour after we got done. he just kept on and kept on and kept on. So, great episode, part 3. We talked ballistics. Prior to that, we had Vince Buckles on, and we talked the parts. We dissected the AK-47 to get familiar with the working components of this awesome rifle. And then our first episode, we kicked it off with the history. And we just kind of did, touched on the history, the highlights of the history. So as we're going through this series, our 12-part series, we're bringing a little more history, a little more knowledge from our guest experts. And this week, joining us, we've got CJ Johnson with Pioneer Arms Corp USA. Welcome in, CJ.
Hey, welcome, guys. Glad to be here. Marco, nice beard, buddy.
So CJ's grabbing a sandwich real quick. As he just mentioned, we have a very special guest this week, and you guys have heard me mention it on social media. We've done some posts announcing who our guest is this episode, and it is none other than Marco Vorobiev.
All right. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Welcome in, Marco. And Marco is former Soviet Spetsnaz. Did I say that right? Spetsnaz?
Yeah, you got it right. Almost without the accent, so.
Almost. That southern accent, I mean, it's hard to. No,
you'll pass for like a Baltic state guy,
Oh, okay. Author and firearms trainer, among other things under his belt. It's a pleasure to have you in, Marco, and I can't tell you, I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. I know we tried to get you on a little bit earlier, but schedule conflicts, but we got you on now, and we're going to pick your brain, buddy.
Sure. I hope there's something to pick,
Well, I think so. With at least two books, and you've done countless articles. Talk about your books.
My second book that's called AK-47, Survival and Evolution of the World's Most Prolific Rifle came out on July 10th, I believe, this summer. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I penned a book out of Gun Digest series. It's called The Shooter's Guide to an AK. Mm-hmm. Though the first book was more of a practical guide, starting from a little bit of history, describing how the rifle operates, basically how you handle the rifle, to a point where how do you aim it, how you carry it, how you maintain it, clean it, how you clear the malfunctions, and to the point of how you can accessorize it and turn it into a little bit more modern carbine.
Yeah. Hey, Marco.
Yes, sir.
Hey, quick question. Hey, what kind of cleaning tool did they give you guys anyway to clean the AKs?
Well, I mean, it was issued standard with the tools already on the gun, which is as you know, on the barrel there is a cleaning rod. And then in the buttstock, for non-folding guns, there was a little compartment with the container containing the the brushes, the punches, the swabbing, slotted tips and stuff.
So they had a little kit for you?
The little kit, right. And those who had the folding stocks, those kits were in the inside of the mag pouch that was issued with the gun. Also, interesting thing, if you would read the actual manual for the gun, right? Like a AK, for the lack of a better description, it would be like the AK user's guide, the official Soviet user's guide. There's constantly referrals to a small wooden sticks. So it's these two devices. I can actually show them to you. I have them here handy if you want to see them. But they expected you to whittle them out of the wood, you know, in the field with the little knife or whatever the sharp object you had, and use it to clean the gun. But in reality, I mean, all the tools you needed were already provided. And also there's a thing, you know, you go on social media, you go somewhere on the interweb, and the people are saying, oh, you gotta fill up the bathtub with Ballistol or some kind of freaking windshield washer fluid, or like Afghans dipped it in the diesel fuel. Well, you know, the Afghans would sell that freaking diesel fuel faster than you can dip the gun in it. And so in reality, all the tools that you need to clean the gun came on the gun or God attached to you in the ways of the hands and the fingers. So that's all you needed to do. So also, apart from the kit, you were issued the little bottle which you carried the little oil in it. Earlier model had the solvent and oil. That was
a bomb?
I don't. No. Although it looks like it. I actually let me break off for about a minute. Okay. And I'll be right. Not less than a minute. I'll be right back. All right.
Okay, that sounds good. So Marco's going to take a break, and while he's gone, we want to thank our sponsor, Pioneer Arms Corp, and CJ is I'm
the vice president of the company overall, and I'm the actual director for all U.S. So any of the guns that get exported through the U.S. or anything else, I deal with all of those, and I also work on a lot of military contracts that we got as a liaison, actually, with a couple of foreign countries. Hey, interesting news about Pioneer Arms for all you guys that like the PM63.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
That you got to shoot when you're like in War Vegas and stuff, or Machine Gun Shoot Vegas. They have one out there. We actually have the PM63s coming in for sale. If you want to do a little research on them, there was only about 80,000 made, and they were used pretty much in they were used in Afghanistan, anywhere that they could be exported and bought. They were used in Vietnam. So it's basically a 9x18, so it shoots a Makarov round pistol that's in full automatic. Now, it's got a little front grip that comes down on it, a little sliding handle, but we've had to adjust those to be able to bring them into the U.S. market. So what we've done is we've made them semi-automatic, and we're bringing them into the market. Now, there's only 1,500 of those guns that have not been used. They were made by our company that we have. We made all 80,000 of them. There's 1,500 that was left that we found in a warehouse that we had when we were doing inventory. And we've got those, and we've converted them to semi-automatic. They're coming into the States, and they'll be the only 1,500 that you can purchase, period.
How do they go purchase these?
Well, you're going to be able to get them through Classic Arms, through our partner right now. So Classic Firearms, you'll be able to get with them and get them from them. They're going to be brought in batches of about 30 per month, if that. And I misspoke. I said there's 1,500 that we have. But right now, we only have 1,000 that we were able to convert, because we have to negotiate with the military to buy them back, because they were all sold to the military. So we have 1,000 right now that we've converted that's coming back. They'll be on the market, or actually David Fortier, our good friend, will have one in about 2 weeks that he'll start doing reviews and stuff on with that. But you're going to be able to get them at Classic Firearms, and there's a good possibility that maybe the OLED heads might get a chance to get a free one.
Uh-oh.
Can't say so yet, but these guns are going to be extremely.
Chance.
It's a pretty pretty good chance. I know a guy. But
okay.
But you got to look at these guns that they're true collectors. So that's going to be it. So there's only 1,500.
I'm surprised they're not already all spoken for. So. Is there a place where is there a website that they go to Classic Firearms and do put their name on a list or anything?
They can contact Classic Firearms, and they can put their name on the list now with Classic Firearms. Now remember, there's There's 30. We only have 30 coming in probably this year. So they can go to Classic Firearms and put their name on the list, and Classic Firearms will have them in, the next 30 to 45 days. They'll have some to sell.
There you go, guys. Definitely something that you historians and you collectors want to get on that list for. So Pioneer Arms Corp, thank you so much for supporting the Talking Lead AK Korner, bringing you 12 episodes of nothing but AK talk with Schwell, myself, and CJ from time to time when we can get him, and our guest experts. And like we were talking earlier, we've got Marco joining us. He's former Soviet Spetsnaz. He's an author. He also does a little training too. Available.
Well, real quick, you missed a couple things about Marco. Marco's just not a former Spetsnaz. Marco is a combat wounded. So he's actually went there, done it, played the game. He's got the medal and the wounds to show it. This isn't, don't get your head too big to be able to get in the headphones there, Marco. But Marco is the real deal. He's one of the guys that went out there and actually did this as a young man, and he's kept the stuff up and everything else. He's one of the guys. If you had to wade through buzz saws and you only had a switch, you'd follow him.
Yeah,
he's that type of guy. So he's the real deal, guys.
Well, Marco, we're gonna let you talk as much as you want to about your background as far as that goes, but CJ will poke and prod. Trust me.
I know. Thank you, CJ, for the introduction and stuff. But anyway, so I as just millions of Soviet youth was drafted into a military service, and because I actually had a couple years of college degree, college education behind my back, so to speak, behind my shoulders, and I was a student athlete, practicing practitioner of sambo and judo at the time. I guess that's why I was selected. But the selection process was kind of funny.
I was going to ask you about that. Can you talk about how that works?
I have no idea how it works, quite honestly, because we had the volleyball players, we had gymnasts, we had the guys with all kinds of athletic backgrounds in the background, as well as just a lot of. We also had some transferees from other units. It's like from. We even had a guy from artillery being transferred, and they usually screwballs, but kind of independent thinkers and stuff. But once they get in the environment that they were in, where the officers were, the authority of an officer was absolute, and they really tune down their antics, I guess, and fall into a regular.
No horse playing going on when they were around, huh?
No, because you operate in a small unit, and you gotta have every capable, able body there performing a certain function. It's sort of like you lose a guy, you pretty much, it's like an infantry setting. You lose a squad, let's say. Yeah. I mean, obviously, on the downtime, people pranked each other and stuff, and usual shit. But
so, their selection process is that right out of school? They start no. And it may be different now, but when you were there, how did that work?
No, it's really. I mean, it's kind of like a cattle market, so to speak. In Abilene, Kansas, years back. When you basically gathered at the draft board facility, they're like a compound, and then buyers, in quotes, from different units come in, and they basically put in what they need. And then go through paperwork and see if these guys will be a regular, like a cannon fodder, or these guys will go to some elite units or some specialty units, right.
So obviously your athletic background helped played a big part in being selected for the special forces.
Well, I actually volunteered and insisted on going to the airborne unit first. And the reason, and that's kind of a funny story, because once you turn 13 in the Soviet Union, your ass belongs to the state pretty much. So every year you have to go to the medical examination by the draft board, whether they do it in school or they actually send you to the polyclinic or something like that. And sometimes they'll bring you right to the actual draft board compound, and then what they call the military commissariat. And I remember when I was going to, and of course at that time I was like a regional. Won several regional tournaments and stuff, was in the top physical shape. And all of a sudden I get to the dentist's office, right? And they measured my overbite, man. And they go, no, it's the 1 millimeter too freaking much for airborne, for any kind of elite. And I was like, what? You know, because to me, my brother served in the airborne, and so for me it was. So
they were that selective, or they knock you out because of an overbite?
Yeah.
Gosh.
They would not take. You would not serve if you had flat feet, for example. You would not serve. Period. I mean, you'll be decommissioned before you even.
Wow.
You know, and they were really very selective. So and so I, spoke to my mom. My mom at the time was like a inspector for the Department of Health and Medicine or whatever in the regional area there, and we went to a dental clinic and they put the braces on me to fix the overbite. And I don't remember how long it was, probably, but so my senior year in high school, I was over there with the grill across my
right.
the mouth and stuff, and but they did fix the problem. So on the subsequent medical checkup, my overbite was fixed, and
so they would take you with correction. You could correct your overbite, and they'll reconsider you.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's where I got drafted. Went to training center, and there was no illusions as to where we will be going after we're done with our basic training. It was in Fergana, Uzbekistan. And then after just short of basic training, me and 7 other people were called in and loaded up in the truck and took a couple hours. Well, pretty long. I don't remember how long it was, but it took us what they call a mountain training center in a little town called Chirchik in Uzbekistan. And although it didn't have any mountains, it had like hills and stuff. But so it took us over there, and that's where we commenced our training afterwards, and then dispatched over the river, they call it.
Yeah. And how many years did you serve?
I served a little over 2 years in total, just like 2 years and 2 or 3 weeks, just a little, right? But not all of it was in in the hostile environment. Only 16 months or so.
Yeah. And how long was the training to get into the unit?
About 3 months.
3 months. Yeah, right. I bet it was brutal.
Oh, I mean, when you're 18, 19 years old.
I was that once.
Right. You don't, I mean, obviously you complain. Yeah, you always complain about the suckages of life and, being torn away from your familiar environment, like your mom and dad's house and stuff, from your school. And then, obviously people trying to adapt to that thing is, you look at it as, something negative. But in reality, I remember when my first night in the military, I think our rise and shine call was about 6:00, and I was already awake by like 5:45. I was just laying there and kind of like waiting. Come on. When is the call?
Anxious. You're anxious, right? To go.
So I kind of maybe took it, and again, physical training and the sports background kind of helps you in that regard. But so I took it as an adventure, something like a new skill I would learn today. Like I couldn't wait to go to the range, for example. I also found out that I wasn't as physically prepared as I thought I would be, like do like push-ups and stuff. And I mean, push-ups is one thing, but like pull-ups and some other stuff in the crossbar. With the heavy boots, it's like a different story than doing it in like a sneakers or something, or the wrestling shoes.
Now, do you remember how much you weighed when you went in?
Yeah, I think I was like 78 kilos or something like that.
Yeah. And when you came out, what'd you weigh?
Well, I probably weigh about the same.
About the same, but you just converted all that.
Yeah, I mean, because I kind of went through a high intensity physical exercise environment into high intensity physical exercise environment.
Sure.
So,
Well, Marco, I think that you were like a world class, martial arts. Like you were like right up there at the Olympic level, weren't you?
okay, so I wouldn't call it world class. I mean, and we need to
tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, ground me down a little bit. I certainly went on several international tournaments representing the country, but very minor tournaments. I was part of what they call the Olympic Reserve Program, but nowhere near to. And the Sambo, which was my main discipline, was not an Olympic sport. Well, it's still not an Olympic sport. By I don't know why not. It's a mystery to me why it's not an Olympic. It's it's a spectator sport. It's by far better than judo, as far as I'm concerned. It's by far better than either freestyle or Greco-Roman wrestling. Anyway, so it was my main discipline, and judo was my second second byproduct of that. Mm-hmm. And there were people that were just unreal as far as like at the level where they would represent the country in the world championships or the Olympics and stuff. So, and
now when you're in your training, do they teach you the people who don't know the martial arts? I mean, you probably had a leg up with your training and that background going into it.
I did, and when you practice Sambo once a week, you would practice what they call a combat Sambo, which were not at the time. In the Soviet Union, there were no official tournaments or competition in the combat Sambo. However, combat Sambo techniques were taught to us once a week. So usually it was Saturday practice, where with the punching bags, some of the boxing techniques, some of the kicks, and so on and so on. However, in the Soviet military hand-to-hand combat system, they use the Sambo a lot. Like airborne use a lot of karate techniques, and in Spetsnaz they use especially they use stuff against things like to work with the knife and other things that
close
you can
combat
use.
Things. Yeah,
that's right. Your gun, the pistol, the freaking shovel. So and. Also, there was at one point a different type of system developed to teach the officers and some of the essential personnel with hand-to-hand combat, and it was called Sistema. And that's more like it's basically it's geared towards disarming or nullifying, I guess, your opponent as fast as possible using the physical moves that base on the physics and principles of physics. Mm-hmm. Leverage and radial motions and things like that. So
that's a close quarter battle technique to disarm them. So yeah. Take away and maim.
Exactly. and yeah, exactly. And basically disrupt the opponent's plan.
Now, what was your specialty?
I was originally a sniper.
Okay.
And that happened kind of weird. It was a very first, it wasn't like they looked at you and then they say, "Ooh, you look like a sniper to me, so here's your SVD," and you go, "No." It just happens that I scored really high on our first trip to the range, while still greenhorns in Fergana, at the Airborne Training Center. And I shot exceptionally well with AK-74, which was, I'm not the greatest shot in the world. There's no doubt about it. It just, I used the basic principles of marksmanship. That was, that was taught to me by my father early on. And I scored like 27 out of 30 maximum on a semi-automatic fire, and then I dropped with the 6 rounds. I dropped 3 targets at the full automatic fire, and then captain who was in charge of our company, he was just, it so happens he was behind me when I did this, and
right place at the right time.
Right, and he basically told the warrant officer in charge of, I guess, the shooting exercise there at the range. He says, "Go try him out in the SVD." And I, to me, it was something like from I never seen one. It kind of had,
it's like futuristic.
Well, yeah, then. Especially scope. If you never seen SVD scope, it's something like it looked like a freaking microscope or something. It's got that industrial kind of look to it, and you got the wires sticking out, the switch and stuff, and I remember looking through it for the first time and trying to eliminate get rid of the half moons and stuff, and just to get the clear picture. And once I got the clear picture, they asked me if I see a reticle, and I couldn't. And if you look through SVD scope, the reticle there is really, really fine.
Yeah.
So you kind of expect to look for it, and you'll find it, no problem. But when you don't know what you're looking at, it takes you a while. And then, so I finally found it, and then told me to go ahead and work on the targets and stuff, and I was just knocking them. It was really easy.
And what range were you when they were testing you at that?
I think we had it like from 200 to 450 or something like that meters.
Yeah.
And it was not. It wasn't even
a challenge for you. You're knocking it down. So you talked about shooting with your father. What age were you when you first shot your firearm?
Okay. So my first firearm I shot when I was about maybe 12, but I shot a gun at the target, which is like an air pellet, the competition style air rifles, from age 5 probably, or it's as far as I remember. As long as I remember, my father took me and my brother on the weekend to a local market and to this little shooting gallery that they had there, and for like a penny, so you could buy those pellets and the German air rifles that you break down, and you put the pellet in. And
oh man, those are cool. Do you still have that?
No, I never owned one.
Oh man, that would be cool if you still had those.
Oh yeah, and then there was one lane that actually shot at the targets, and like a 4 or 5, or I don't know, maybe more firing lanes that were shooting at the little like a movable or reactive targets. When you hit it, something will spin, and so there were some reactive targets, you hit something and then it'll fall or it'll spin, and there was also a little moving targets and stuff. So it was once I grew up, it was a lot of fun to shoot at those things.
What part of Russia did you grow up in?
I grew up in the Urals, in the south foothills of southern Urals, in the city of Orenburg.
Was there hunting there? Did you guys hunt for your food?
No, my dad, of course, growing up in the area that was devastated by war, and during the World War II, he actually hunted for food in this deep Murom forests.
Yeah.
In the Vladimir region there north of Moscow. So he had to do it from early age and stuff. So he had affinity with firearms, and he would always tell me about things. And he would be the one who was instilling the good habits as far as like the marksmanship habits, hold your breath and let it out, and how you're supposed to have a good clear picture, and so on and so on. So it was easy for me to, and then believe it or not, every school in Soviet Union at the time, well, maybe most of the schools of the Soviet Union in Soviet Union at the time had armories in it. And some had the rifle ranges in the basements. Certainly our school did.
Yeah.
And so it was all like twice a year we would go and we would shoot the 22 rifles. Again, competition, single shot kind of bolt action. These German rifles. And when I got older in my high school years or even upperclassmen middle school, I would organize those things. I would get corner the guy who's responsible for it. He usually taught a beginner's preparation class. I would corner him and say, "Hey, let's organize the shooting. Let's go shoot." And he would organize it. We would go and maybe shoot once a month or something like that. So
so you've always had an affinity for firearms, even at a
yeah.
What kind of rifles or guns were you guys allowed to own in the Soviet Union at that time?
You could. Okay, so the firearm laws pretty much pretty much the same what they are right now, but slightly modified. Of course, there's a variety of guns available now that there wasn't available at that time. But people did own the shotguns and they owned rifles. Now with the pistols was a different story. It was complete no-no. But so as far as you had to join some kind of hunting club, and
had to have a justification for your rifle.
Right. Well, first you buy a shotgun. Then after 5 years owning the shotgun, you can apply for a license to purchase a rifle.
Oh wow! Okay.
So that's the and I think it is still the same way in Russia, hence the widespread of this new calibers called 366 TCM or something like that, or Lancaster. It's something like
we need to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a smooth bore gun that mimics the ballistics up to 300 meters or so of a regular rifle cartridge. And so now people that couldn't immediately buy a rifle, for example, right? So they had to buy a shotgun first and then wait. Now they can buy the same kind of rifles, just in that weird caliber.
Mm-hmm. What's that comparative to?
I mean, they built. It's probably more like, how in Europe, your hunting guns supposed to have ballistics up to 300 meters, and after that it should just drop and stuff. It's kind of the same way. So up to 300, it's comparable to 7.62 by 39 cartridge, or 7.62 by 54R. So there's two. There's a 366 TCM and
but these aren't semi-autos, right? They're bolts.
Yeah, you can do it. They got them. They got AKs in those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So civilians can own semi-autos there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Nice.
Absolutely. They call them Segas, but they more AKs. Yeah, they more AKs than the Segas we get here.
Gotcha.
I mean, they pretty much just they take the auto steer out and rebarrel them for that cartridge, or just leave them in the regular caliber, and they call it a Sega MK or something like that, and then it's pretty much a semi-automatic AK that used to be full auto.
Gotcha. Let's take some questions from our listeners now. Let's go to Facebook, and I'll just take this first one. It's from Pierce T. He's one of our top fans. It says, if he is able to talk about it, what kind of training did he receive with the AK that would not have been possible with a different weapon system? And he says, for example, I remember seeing a video a few years describing Russian training with AKs that discussed things like using the slings to restrain the enemy, doing push-ups, blah, blah, blah. So anything unique as far as training with an AK, different than any other rifle platform?
Nothing, no. Yeah. I mean, the idea was the gun is just a tool in your toolbox. I mean, just like the knife, just like if you carry a sidearm, just like your hands, things like that. The explosives that you carry in your backpack. I mean, it was just a tool in your...
they wanted to maximize how to use it. They taught you every aspect of it.
Right, but there was also cross training, and everyone in my unit could shoot an SVD. Everyone could shoot the PKM. Everybody could strip it apart, either one of those guns. Most of the guys were trained on the NSV gun and the AGS grenade launchers and stuff like that. So it was more treated like it was at the time. It was unthinkable or unimaginable to have anything else other than AK, and of course they change you in every little aspect of that gun, but not from the point of view that this gun is specific for this particular thing. No, and it's more of like this gun shoots bullets. Just like every other gun shoots bullets.
Well, it gets into your close quarter combat too, like he was talking about with the straps, and it's using every part of your kit and being able to have more than one use for that piece of kit. Obviously,
in the basic training, they'll teach you how to use a sling as a support for a gun when you're shooting.
I think probably on Marty, some of those videos he's talking about is we have, like in America, we have a lot of different training groups are coming to come up with a new way to roll the wheel around. I think that's some of the Russian instructors and stuff that they have, and Russia does have a large field of instructors now. For instance, there's medical classes that they have, trauma classes that you can go to, marksmanship classes and stuff. A lot of that's opened up compared to how it used to be, where they have the same type of classes that we have here in the U.S. It's just versioned off the AK model that they have. And their instructors are going to have different techniques on ways that they figured out how to make this work or that work. And that's probably some of the videos that he's looking at. But, I'm sure their military training is standardized just like our military training is as far as it goes. I mean, the unique way for them to carve out a piece of wood to use as a cleaning device, it was just a way for them to be able to do something better, where we went out and spent, millions of dollars to develop different cleaning stuff. They just used a stick. The sort of the smarter way, sort of like you go back to. It's going to
teach you to use stuff you find in the field that way. So when you lose your kit,
right? And then another thing, it's like often you say, "Oh, your gear sucks because it doesn't have a zippers; it's got toggles." Well, you break a freaking zipper in the field, you're pretty much screwed. Your piece of gear is useless. You tear a toggle off, you pick up a piece of wood and whittle it with the knife, and then when you touch it back to your gear and you're ready to go. It's kind of the same. It's sort of like a space pencil type of argument. But the biggest thing is that the AK sling is nothing. It looks simple. It's sort of like there's a little carabiner and stuff, but that thing is actually very good as far as if you know how to use it. You can use it for stabilizing your rifle for longer shots, for example, and you can also do it single point attachment sling, which is really comfortable, and so on and so on. But ever using it to restrain a prisoner was just no. You always had some kind of rope or a piece of wire or something like that you used to, or use their the headdress.
Yeah,
also usually used for restraining the mooch. Okay, unwind the turban. And
here's a question from top fan Chuck S. He's number one lead head. He's got two questions. It says, what is the most unusual failure ever witnessed or heard of, and what was the most unusual fix of a failure?
In the AK?
Yeah, in your experience, with the AK. Or the SVD, whichever.
I don't recall with the SVD. I'm going to say it right away. Not one. With AKs, the most unusual would be probably the empty casing making its way behind bolt carrier, and then just being hammered in there into the rear trunnion and stuff. And when somebody and the gun would be functioning fine, but then you would open up for cleaning, and there's this like a perfectly stamped into the into a rear trunnion casing, spent casing. To say that AK does not have doesn't fail, it's not true. It has 4 major failings, usually attributed to feeding problems or like a poor magazine condition or something like that. And it's usual thing. It's failure to extract, stove piping, the bullet, the double feed, and one other one I forgot, but they all cleared by the same way. You detach the magazine and rack it a few times and see if you clear it this way. If not, they pop the top cover and look inside and see if it's actually, poke your finger or something in it to get the casing loose, and that's pretty much it. So there's no tool or anything that's required if the gun is properly assembled. That is, if it's a properly made gun.
One of the common things that I've seen in Iraq was because they did the wrong chamber size when Saddam was making his own AKs, so it would rip the head stamp off and leave the rest of the casing inside of the chamber. And then they would try to drive another round on top of that one, so it was kind of like a double feed, but you had the case is like a double cased round shoved into this chamber, and they were next to impossible to get out. You almost had to destroy the gun to get it cleared.
Believe it or not, it happened to me once in my civilian life, about maybe, 10 years ago. So with a case not properly assembled AK-74, and it was done on camera while we were shooting the Guns and Ammo TV. So the gun looked brand new gun. It fired once, and we couldn't get the casing out. Well, and the problem there usually goes to the wrong or dimensions of a chamber, and having the casing expand and basically expand so much in it that almost welds itself to the side, the walls of the chamber. But like I said, I made a little comment. I said that properly functioning AK, so properly assembled AK.
Yeah,
so usually
that's relevant. So here's one from Jacob R, and we got a couple other people that are asking the same thing. Just kind of tie them all in together. Do you prefer wood or plastic on the furniture? And what are your top accessories that you like to run with on your AK?
All right. Good question. I love it because it's kind of 180 story for me.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big fan of plastic, and the reason for being the plastic is because it's easier to produce, it's easier to manipulate. In some cases, it's lighter. It's not susceptible to damage and stuff, and the wear and tear that the wood otherwise is. Mm-hmm. And as far as like a handguards are concerned, I remember when they first started getting the case, like back in the 90s or whatever, with the people would install the vertical grip, and I would like saying, "Oh my God, it's a stupid thing to do." Why? You got this nice, swale that you can hold the AK with, and it'd be perfectly good. And now I'm like a big fan of that, the vertical grip, actually. so I went 180. And as far as the aluminum handguards are concerned, it's my second best, but the plastic probably I'm more leaning towards plastic, of course. Okay. and wood would be
just for the versatility of the plastic and the lightweight.
Exactly.
So
I'm more for practical point of looking from practical point of view.
You were talking about the aluminum handguards. I was at the range yesterday with a company called Occam Defense, and they've just come out with a new handguard. They call it the Merc. Have you seen that yet?
Oh, not yet. No.
Very, very nice accessory as far as handguards go. It's got the full top rail on it. Mm-hmm. Extremely lightweight. It's got a heat dissipator, heat shield underneath it. So it did a really good job for what we shot as far as dissipating the heat. It didn't get too hot. I mean, it got warm, but.
There was a second part to that question, by the way. He's asking what
your accessory,
my favorite accessory. I would say some aiming device, like 1 to 4. I mean, my favorite obviously would be the Elcon, the Spectre 1 to 4 Spectre scope. Okay. I think it's like the greatest implement ever devised for like AK-74 platform.
And what is that called again?
It's an Elcon.
Elcon.
Okay. Spectre.
It's 1 to 4.
It's a very expensive thing, and it costs probably more than 4 AKs. But if somebody could somehow get one, I mean, that's AK-74 would match it.
Is it IR capable and all that?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's got the night vision, 2 settings.
Okay.
Night vision, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
So,
what about you run suppressors on the AK?
We did run suppressors on AK. So this is also kind of addresses the myth that's kind of floating around there.
Okay. Now it's time for the Talking Lead
Fact to fight the myths.
Right. So, the myth sounds something like this. Russian soldiers in Afghanistan prefer to use AKMs and 7.62 by 39. Every chance they get, they'll drop their AK-74s to pick up the 7.62 gun.
Uh-huh.
And that's total bullshit. First of all, you don't... Oh, pardon my... Oh, can I say something?
Yeah,
you
can say shit. Yeah, you can say that.
As
long as CJ's okay with it.
It's total poppycock.
Oh, that's good. That should stay.
Poppycock.
But I mean, first of all, in the Soviet military, you don't just drop a gun and pick up another one. I mean, your personal weapon number is written into your military ID.
Yeah, you're responsible for that.
You're responsible for that particular gun with that serial number. So that's one thing. The other thing, in the Spetsnaz and reconnaissance units did use AKMs or AKMSs, the folders, and the reason for use of a 30 caliber gun was because of the PBS-1 suppressor that was designed for that gun to use on raids and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there was no suppressor. Now, of course, that would be ridiculous trying to suppress 545 high velocity round. So yeah, they use the AKMs, the 30 caliber guns as their personal weapons, but mostly geared towards the use of a PBS-1 suppressor. And we used it in our unit a lot. And we also had several sidearms that were also suppressor capable. We had PB, which is like a Makarov based, but internally permanently suppressed type of gun for close engagements.
So is it integrally suppressed?
Yep.
Okay. Nice.
And then the other one was APB, which is based on Stishkin, which was fully automatic pistol, which was larger and had a long can.
What caliber was that?
In Makarov, 9mm Makarov.
Gotcha.
So we used all 3 items in operations we went on.
All right, so that's Marco's answer on the accessory. He likes the scope. And give that name of that scope one more time.
It's a Elcon made by I think it's a armored. It's made in Canada.
Okay, Canadian. Ooh, that's surprising.
Yeah, Elcon, and that's a Spectre DR, I believe, and that's the one that's a flippable from 1 to 4. It's not the twist. Mm-hmm. It's actually flippable.
Okay. Right. It's a prism scope, and it's very popular, and it is a high priced item, or it's built tough. It's built to withstand abuse, and they price it that way. So
gotcha. So it's a little pricey.
Yeah, and the Elcon, they actually, I believe the AM249s come with the Elcon scopes originally. I believe so. The saws and stuff, and I mean, it's used by the U.S. military. But it's the reason why I like that scope is because it's we're looking at the AK is more of like a fighting carbine rather than a line rifle, so to speak. And the Elcon, with its capability of a quick switch between 1 and 4, actually makes it kind of makes AK into a modern fighting carbine, where you could use the red dot, black dot capability of that reticle in close contact fight. And on the top of it, Elcon is actually a really wide tube. It's not like you're looking through a tiny little peephole, so to speak, or a small objective lens. It's more like it's a large tube.
Gotcha.
So you can flip it to 4, and the ballistic reticle there is for it's got the BDC built into it for 223 now out to about 600 meters or so, 5.45 by 39 projectile from that cartridge.
Gotcha.
Actually matches it matches ballistics of 223 or 5.56.
Okay.
Projectile pretty closely.
So here's a couple of questions, and we're talking about sights and optics. I mean, obviously, you're probably going to prefer an optic over your iron sights, but I've got a couple of people here who are asking about how to sight in your iron sights, how to properly do that on an AK-47. Robin and Kurt are asking this.
Okay. Okay. So all the sighting in the AK done in the front post or front sight. So obviously there's elevation, which is your cleaning kit actually provides. There's a little piece in your cleaning kit that actually has a tool that would twist your post, and the post is threaded in. And windage, if you look at the little indent there in front of your front side, you'll see there's a little hash marks there, right? If you look look from the muzzle, there, right, and see that there's a little indent there in the block,
right,
and then you would notice there's a hash marks there, and you use them only to mark. Once you sight the gun up, then you can put maybe a dab or a little scratch, so you know which hash mark corresponds with the little drum. So the drum into which the front post of the front sight actually screws in, it's movable, but it's the precious fitted, right? Mm-hmm. So there are a bunch of tools that you can use. I think Tapco sells some. There's one that's like I would say like a Cadillac of all the tools. Unfortunately, I don't have it handy with me, but I think you can buy it through Krebs Customs.
Okay.
It's a great tool.
So there's an actual AK front post sight tool?
Exactly. And it's like a universal tool. It's awesome. And you can use in the field conditions, you can use a hammer and like a spent casing or any kind of like a cylindrical punch, I guess you can say. And but you have to be very careful as to how much you're moving it and stuff. So basically, trial and error, see where you shoot, and then make the adjustments using your tools that you have available. Yeah. The elevation just simple screwing and up and down, but the windage is
windage. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Windage you use a punch and a hammer.
Okay.
Or you can use a spent casing too.
That goes to adapting and using your environment. What you have handy in the field.
Well, if you're in the gunfight or in the field with a gun that's not shooting straight, I mean, there's something wrong.
Yeah, you should have had that tuned in before.
Yeah, it should have been done already. Right.
So, what about the rear sights?
The rear sight is just simply adjusting for the range. There's a P setting, which is a permanent, I guess, which is roughly about 300 meters or so. And then there's 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on to 1,000 meters. And on early AK-47s, it was to 800 meters. And then on the AKMs and the new modified rifles, they all went to 1,000 meters, which is kind of like overly optimistic, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because at that distance, you can't see a target. Your front post is covering it whole. So you might pin somebody down with a very low probability of hitting something, but nevertheless, things do happen, and so you can at least provide a suppressive fire of some kind. But so it's actually marked for up to 1,000 meters in the 100-meter increments.
Now, do you cover this in your book?
Oh yeah,
okay.
All of that is my first book, the Shooter's
Guide to the AK. I was going to say, guys, just go to Amazon, and Marco's book is there. It's under Gun Digest Shooter's Guide to the AK-47s. And he'll go into details there as well. But I'm sure that's a great book. That's one I've got on my list here. It's in my basket right now. So
yeah, I approached it when I wrote it. I approached it from a point of obviously I'm by nature of the beast, so to speak. I'm always staying in touch with all kinds of AK collectors, the guys that go deep into history and looking at the right diameters of rivets, heads, and things like that. And I was gonna write a book that would appeal to those guys to put it on the bookshelf because they might learn something they didn't know from practical point of view, as well as someone that never seen an AK-47 or AKM or AK-7, AK gun in real life and only saw pictures or something. And then all of a sudden they see the gun, and then by reading the book, they can actually become an AK operator, so to speak. They would know how to load it.
Not until they take your training course, though.
I do. I've kind of reduced the number of training courses I offer now, and I do group courses mostly. And just one to highlight, I did last January that I did for Michigan National Guard for the full-time guys, not the weekend warriors. And I'm doing another one for the whole platoon of soldiers. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. I'm usually trying to limit the class sizes to 10 to 12 people or something like that. Now I'm actually on the 25th of this month. I'm going to have 40 guys.
You might need to call in another instructor.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of people on hand, and that's what we call a foreign weapon familiarization class. And we'll have several guns there. We'll have the AKMs and AK-74s, RPKs, RPK-74s, PKMs, and definitely an SVD rifle.
Oh man, that'll be sweet class. So you say there's like 40 people in that already, though, so it's full, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and well, it's actually it's all military personnel.
So can people get in touch with you? Website, social media, if they were interested in getting some training from you?
Yeah, I am on the Facebook. I'm on both as behind lines training as well as just a Marco Vorobiev. But I don't advertise the training anymore.
Gotcha. So I need to quit pushing that, don't I?
I mean, I'll do it if the group decides to invite me to their facility, or me organize it for a said group. I'll do it. Okay. But I try not to.
I got you. It's nothing scheduled.
Right. Yeah, right. There's no set schedule.
So that book that came out in around 2016, the Shooter's Guide to the AK, and then you just came out just recently with the Survival and Evolution of the World's Most Prolific Gun, the AK-47. That's another Gun Digest, I guess, publisher. Are they publishers?
They're publishers, but it's outside of their series of Gun Digest. It's just the same publisher. Yeah. And this book, I mean, when I wrote my first book, and I guess I got good reviews, and publisher decided to go ahead and give me another contract for a book that deals in detail with the history of AK and so on and so on. I kind of I didn't take it in stride to say, to put it politely. I actually had to wrap my brain around the subject. And then once I kind of looked into it and outlined what I'm going to talk in that book about, then sort of my path was clear to what I need to write about. So I go in that book, I go back to the roots of it. Okay, so as a concept, and definitely not into 1943 or 42.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I make a distinct differential. I guess I differentiate between term assault rifle, right, and what the AK is. An AK, by Russian definition, is automatic rifle, and this is or Russians call it automat or automat.
Right.
All right, and the assault rifle, that is, I kind of will quote myself in there. And I say that the AK is automat, and no matter what the Hitler liked to call his gun, or what the gun grabbers would like, how much gun grabbers would like to misuse the assault rifle term. Mm-hmm. And so in history, the history that I cover in the book, I go back way beyond. I go to 1906, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're digging way deep.
Oh, yeah. I have to dig deep. And go to no, forget the Germans.
Forget the Germans. Before them, too.
1906. There's a book that's been written by, at that time, he was just a captain, Fedorov, Russian Tsar's army officer, who coined the idea of having a lighter rifle that's shooting much a lighter cartridge than the rifle cartridges existed at the time, and that was capable of full automatic fire or select fire. And it was also designated for some frontline units, but not all, just a special shooting units, cavalry maybe, and so on and so on. And at the time, Russia was just coming out of disastrous war with Japan, and we're looking into World War I. So all that stuff was brewing. So it's kind of like he's written this book, he's published it, but there was no work or development work was done at the time. Not until 1916, when the Fedorov actually built a gun, and there was actually several tens of thousands that gun was actually built. It was called the Fedorov's Automat. And originally, he wanted to develop a specific cartridge for it, which is he was a big fan of a 6.5 millimeter caliber.
He was way before his time, isn't he?
Right. But then obviously we know that Japanese main rifle Arisaka was 6.5 Arisaka. And at the time, in 1916, Russia was already in the war. Again, was not going well for the Tsarist Russia at the time. So the resources were limited. And although he was actually proved the concept and the rifle was adopted, the new cartridge was not adopted. Mm-hmm. They said we captured so much ammo from Japanese early on, Russo-Japanese war, of 6.5 Arisaka, and so the ammo was available, and so he was kind of forced to build his automat to fire that particular cartridge, which was a lot less, I guess, potent than the 7.62 by 54R cartridge at the time.
Yeah,
and so
they were just forced to use the resources they had.
Exactly. So they or forced to come up with something not using the resources they didn't have.
Yeah.
Because everything, the war effort kind of ate up.
All about thing. Money, yeah. Comes down to the almighty dollar.
So in 1917, Bolsheviks came to power. They tried to issue those guns. They obviously captured all the arsenals and the Tsarist arsenals. They tried to issue those guns to the troops, and then there were just too few of those guns available, and then it required a decent kind of education and the technical background to operate them.
Yeah,
and then they scrapped the whole thing, and
that's a shame. Yeah.
Right. So, but the gun was still used in 1940 during the Winter War with Finland, and that gun was actually filled by both the Finnish soldiers as well as the Soviet Red Army soldiers on both sides. But then eventually just kind of died out and went into obscurity.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept of automatic rifle that fired the intermediate cartridge obviously was revived. It technically it never went away from the Soviet gun makers. It was always there. It's always rotating, but they were kind of starting with the developing of the proper ammunition for it first before they would build the gun system or firearm system. Whereas Germans were developing their Kurz, 8mm Kurz, so 7.9 Kurz cartridge, and of course were the first ones who come up with the MP43, which later was substituted by or replaced by STG-44 after Hitler found out about it. It was done in secrecy. Of course, they would not tell the Führer that they were working on it because he was such a big fan of K98 Mauser that was prevalent during when he served in the military, which is during World War One, or had the roots at least. So they had to do it secretly. And then when they showed him how effective that gun was, then he they say, and then it's a myth that I cannot confirm or deny that he actually coined the term Sturmgewehr, which pretty much means the storm rifle or assault rifle. And first of all, I don't think that he is the type of person that should be remembered for anything but
true.
The evil that he's done to the world.
Right. But we can't erase history either. We have to. The facts are the facts, and we need to teach them that way.
Right, but then again, unsubstantiated rumors should not be assigned to somebody like this. He
absolutely. If it's not proven, don't automatically assign it to him.
Yeah, he should be the last person. Now, interesting thing. So the guy Hugo Schmeisser, who actually designed, a lot of people kind of saying that, he was this genius. He designed this freaking gun, blah blah blah. He helped Russians to design the AK. The funny thing is, Hugo Schmeisser was a lot like Kalashnikov, only different. He never went to school. He wasn't an engineer. He never graduated from any freaking technical college. He learned everything he knew about guns from working for his father at the arms factory. Uh-huh. Okay,
hands-on.
So. Right, hands-on kind of guy. He came up with this thing, and obviously, there's one person never does anything pertaining to guns. It's always somebody designs this component, somebody designs that component, and conceptually, you come up with a gun that should function this way and that way. But obviously, the guy did not. He lacked the metallurgical expertise, or lacked the actual structural expertise or to calculate dynamic loads and kinetic energy and all that stuff.
That's what the eggheads are for, man. We just come up with the ideas and let them handle that,
Exactly. So it's the same thing goes with the Kalashnikov. He didn't just. He had a concept, but he had the help all along the way.
He had to bring in experts in all those different kind of fields to make it feasible and make it actual working model. Yeah.
Right. And then, he was head of the team. It was his concept. It was his, a preliminary design, but it was never, just him doing it.
Full on him, yeah. Yeah. And I think most people realize that.
So
just in anything else that gets developed and produced, it's like somebody's got an idea, but you have to bring in all these other expertise fields to make it actually feasible and whether it'll work. Now, did you ever get to meet Kalashnikov?
I sure did.
Talk about that.
I met. It was in 2001. It's kind of an interesting story that will stay with me for the rest of my life for two reasons. One, meeting a great guy, a really true legend in the firearms world. And two, it was happening while the Twin Towers were collapsing.
Oh, man.
On September 11th in New York. And so yeah, we met with Kalashnikov. We actually went to his summer house and had dinner there
with him.
We didn't know what was going on in New York, so we had this wonderful dinner. We spent, I don't know how many, 4 or 5 hours drinking a little vodka, eating delicious food and just talking. And he was a great storyteller. And we asked him the questions. He was like, he would. I cover all that in the book, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he was, not a big fan of AK-74. He kind of let us know that decision was kind of pushed on him. He thought that the 7.62 cartridge was still underdeveloped and had a potential. And but then at the same time, he was a big fan of AKSU gun, which is, it's a shorter version of a AK-74. And it shoots 505 cartridge. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of really complimenting that gun, but when asked directly, he was against the AK-74.
Well, it's just a thing of pride, I bet, too, huh?
Right. And, you could, we're all humans. We all have our own opinions and
preferences, yeah.
And preferences, what we form our own opinion based on something. Like, for example, if you look at the AK-47 early models, there's a 6-degree slant in the buttstock, right? Which to me, it goes back to like Mosin Nagant, which is really, as a sniper rifle, unless you're wearing one of those winter hats and stuff, and you got this cheek pad, so to speak. It's like really, really uncomfortable cheek weld and stuff, unless you're shooting through the iron sights. And AK also had that slant, and I can't stand it. I'm just like, why? Straighten it, make it even with the line of sight,
and make it ergonomically correct. Yeah.
His argument, and he was against straightening, taking away the 60-degree slant. He was saying that, that forces the shooter's head up, and then he becomes a bigger target. And I was like thinking, how? You're still putting your eyesight through the same a sight line of sight.
Right.
It just, right now, instead of chin weld, you have a cheek weld. So
you couldn't sell him on it though, right?
Right. He had some of this things like that, and that's okay. It's okay to disagree with someone from the point, because we approach and form our opinion from approaching it from different angles. Like somebody from practical, somebody from conceptual.
Well, I would say that he had the win on that argument, because he could say, well, I've got 80 million of my rifles floating around the world. How many do you have?
All right. Well, here we go. That brings me to actual point. He doesn't have 80 million of AK-47s out there. Majority of the guns that we now call AK-47 is actually AKMs. And stamp receiver with all the modernizations, and again, I cover that in the book.
Sure.
All the modified things in there. There's numerous modifications that were done to AKM as opposed to AK-47. There's very, very few of AK-47s out there. Most of the rifles that you see on TV every day that people shoot at the range, most of them are, AKM. In fact, AKMs.
Yeah. And
AKM had the straight buttstock. We didn't have the slant.
Yeah.
So
do you prefer the 7.62x39 or the 5.45?
5.45.
The 74.
Every day and twice on the weekend. I personally think that, and again, it's my personal opinion, and the haters out there or the witnesses of 7.62 sect can hate me all they want. But I say that 5.05 is by far better and probably the closest to perfect cartridge for fighting carbine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the recoil is not, and we can sit here and debate this, and people say, well, I mean, this cartridge is better, this penetration is better, it breaks the bricks better. But unless you fired full automatic, you have no foot to stand on, because the gun was designed to fire full automatic. It wasn't
suppression.
If you were gonna, if it's a semi-automatic plinker, then obviously it would have been designed differently. Like, let's say SKS would be, this is just probably one of the better semi-automatic rifles in 7.62x39. But if you're looking at it as from the point of view of someone who carries it in the combat, that's what this gun was actually designed for.
Absolutely.
It's designed as a battle rifle. And if you fired the full auto, both 7.62x39 and 5.05x39, you would see there's no comparison.
Yeah.
They definitely display similar characteristics at one point, but one of them displays those negative characteristics a lot less. So you actually can put 2 rounds on the target with the 74, whereas in 7.62x39 is almost impossible.
Right.
I mean, it's a rarity.
So with current military, Soviet military, what are they using currently?
I got to correct you there a little bit. The Soviet Union died as a country back in 1990.
Okay, Russia. So
oxymoron, current Soviet military. Unless there's some kind of secret military that still exists somewhere in the snows.
Well, you never know. There might be, an uprising, a civil war.
Right.
Yeah.
The guys that Japanese dude in some island that never knew that the war was over.
Yeah.
He was still guarding the post for 50 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, current Russian military, actually, especially in the recent years, there were several significant developments in the firearm design for the current modern military. And although there's 3 new guns that were introduced and adopted for service recently, and it looks like 1 more gun will be adopted before the end of this year, they all chambered in 5.05x39.
And what about and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but I saw somewhere, I think Popular Mechanics did an interview with you and used one of your quotes. There's a new sniper rifle that they've got, the T5000, using the 338 Lapua.
They stole that quote. They never interviewed me, so here's official, throw in your face,
Yeah.
You stole it from somewhere. You stole it from one of my firearm.com blog.
Without your permission?
Well, firearm news. I'm not sure if it's my place to give permission for this stuff or not, but
if it's your quote and they're quoting you, then yeah, it's absolutely your place.
But anyway, so fine. Yeah, Orsis T5000 is one of the bolt guns, highly accurized guns that were possible because of the, Russia kind of became free market economy, and there's creative people went to work and they actually came up with this gun. And it's a highly accurized gun. By the way, they use the blanks, the barrel blanks from the U.S. They buy them from the U.S. So
okay.
So I don't know if they still do it unless they've been sanctioned and stuff. Yeah. But anyway, it is very. I mean, it's nothing spectacular about that gun that we haven't seen before. It's Accuracy International, Arctic Warfare, all those Tikas and Sakos.
Yeah, they were just talking about how amazing it is, and it's coming in and replacing their, I guess, the SVDs. They're making us think that that's all they've been using all these years, or antiquated sniper rifles, which we know that's not true.
It's not true. It will never replace an SVD type of rifle, or I should say, a semi-automatic sniper rifle.
Yeah, they were comparing apples and oranges in that article.
Exactly, and the T5000 is more of like a anti-terrorism when the precise hits anti-hostage type of hostage taken type of operations, where precise one shot, one kill matters.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fact, Russia fielded thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of snipers during World War II. And obviously there were two types of guns available for our snipers. More accurate, I guess, Mosin Nagant 9130 PU gun, which is the bolt gun, right? And you had to load. It's a magazine gun, but because of the scope, you couldn't use the stripper clips. So you had to load one by one, 5 rounds, and shoot, and then load again. And then there was SVT Tokarev gun, which was less accurate, but it had a detachable 10-round magazine. Even if you only had one magazine per se, but you had a pouch full of ammunition and stripper clips, you could still use those to load the magazine.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, you could reload a lot faster. So the casualties of among the sniper corps during the war was incomparable. Those who fought with the SVTs and could fight in the close contact fight after being discovered, after being assaulted, and then they can kind of fend off the infantry by quickly reloading semi-automatic gun, versus those guys who shot the 5 shots and then they have to load it again and become a sitting duck, so to speak. So they were incomparable. You couldn't compare them. It was a high rate against the Mosin snipers versus the SVT personnel that carried SVTs. And just as a historical fact, the female sniper, the most, I guess, celebrated sniper, Ludmila Pavlichenko, they had 302 kills, I believe. She originally was carrying the Mosin Nagant gun, which I actually personally seen it. I've seen it in the museum. And then after sustaining severe injuries, and then she returned, and she scored most of her hits with the actually SVT-40 gun.
Oh, wow.
So she switched. And then, so here's the debate in the modern warfare, where you actually, it's mobile, it's dynamic. Your battlefield can shrink from 400 meters to 50 meters or vice versa. Mm-hmm. The bolt gun, though more accurate and precise, and definitely has a place, but the semi-automatic gun probably has an upper hand.
Right. Oh, and
so the T-5000 is adopted by Russian, I guess, the Russian special forces, more like anti-terrorist units.
Sure.
That fighting those,
more of a specialty kind of gun. Yeah.
Right. Fighting the insurgents in the ISIS operatives in Chechnya and in Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah. Well, I saw that quote and I wanted to ask you about that because I was reading that article and I was like, and it's just like they just kind of copied and pasted that out of somewhere else because it didn't seem like that they had actually spoken to you. And then I also saw it borrowed, I guess, in another article. Of course, it was a left-wing article, and they were saying about how you said that the NRA was supporting Russian snipers or so. I don't know, it's some bullshit. So I just
what?
Yeah.
News to me.
You can Google it. It's I'll find the article and I'll send it to you.
Is it written by something called Medium or something?
Yeah, it's obviously a lefty, with ulterior motives that's just picking and choosing quotes.
They need to stop doing it, or
they're not going to. They're not, unfortunately. But
when you start misquoting people and using people's names and stuff.
Oh yeah, and that's up to you. You gotta. I'll send it to you, and I want you to, give them up and down about it. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll look at it.
Okay.
But anyway, So Russia did develop another semi-automatic gun. It's called a SVH, which is more like a more upgraded and modular derivative of Dragunov sniper rifle. but it's a little bit more of within the modern parameters, I guess. So you can use different optics and things like that. And,
right.
But there's
catching up with the times. Catch up with times.
Right.
Very good. All right, guys. So we answered some of your questions there. He gave some great answers. I think that'll probably answer a lot more of the questions that we had that some of you guys had asked. But you can go ask Marco himself. Go to his Instagram. You got an Instagram?
No, I
Facebook.
don't. I'm kind of like a handicapped in that department, and by choice, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I am too. But I mean, if you got something specific, let me know, and I'll get in touch with him. TalkingLead@gmail.com. You guys got questions, comments for our upcoming guests, our upcoming shows, suggestions for the shows? I know you've sent several things you'd like for us to discuss. The Makarov pistol is one that you guys want us to talk about, so we definitely we'll do that in an upcoming episode. And then we're going to get more into different optics and optic mounting solutions. That's going to be an upcoming show that we're going to do as well. But now it's time to give away that AK you guys have been waiting so patiently on. We're going to give away a Pioneer Arms AK Hell Pup, and it's going to have a custom Cerakote job from our buddy Tucker at Blackout Cerakote Customs. And they've been in anticipation, CJ. They didn't know which one they were going to get. We've posted the pictures from Tucker. Is it the red one? Is it the green one? Is it that other one? We don't know. So tell them about the AK Help Up that they're going to get, and then we'll tell them who the winner is.
All right. Well, the one we're giving away today is we're giving away the red striped one that we've had painted. The green one is Classic Firearms. If you go to Classic Firearms, they're actually going to be giving away the green one on their site, so you can go there and register to win the green one that they have.
There you go, guys. Giveaway.
One of the things that we've got about these AKs and stuff is we've got a lot of pride put into them, and if there's any issues or anything else, which we haven't had any. Well, I take that back. We had a guy that tried to switch his trigger out and didn't do a very good job, so we've done a repair on that. We really haven't had any issues with the guns or anything else, and we've got well over 5,000 on the market. But I just want to let the people know that we totally back this gun up 100% to take care of it.
Yeah.
Any issues there are with it. The gun's made 100% in Poland. We've expanded our CNC machines, so we're going to start making a few more guns at the beginning of the year.
I got a message from Mike the other day, said that they've been busy in installing some new machinery, so I was excited to hear that. So they're going to kick up production.
Right. We're actually in the first of the year, all of our Hell pistols will have the back trunnion on them that's already adapter ready, and we're making the adapters also so that you can put the folding stock on it.
Glad you brought that up, because we have a question regarding that too. You and I talked about it, the existing ones, what people need to do if they want to add those.
There's a couple of different things that you can actually do. If you want to make it an SBR, of course, the legal way, getting your tax stamp and everything done for an SBR, that tab on the back of the trigger well on the back of the pistol that's replacing the ear of the trunnion, you can actually take that off, and then if you have your proper paperwork and everything else, then a polymer stock will fit in there so tight that you don't have to rivet it. We actually have polymer stocks in our kits that'll do that.
Yeah.
That's to make it an SBR. But if you want to go ahead and do a brace or something else on that, that's going to require some work of actually taking out the trunnion and everything else. And guys, you got to understand the reason that we have we brought this pistol in to try to hit a niche in the market so we could have an inexpensive, good quality gun out there for you. Once we started adding the trunnion and everything else, once we first started doing the manufacturing phase of it, putting that rear trunnion on it, that's a substantial price because of the time it takes to put it in it and then the actual part itself. But now that we are manufacturing the parts ourselves totally to include that rear trunnion, be able to go ahead and have that gun so it'll be brace ready coming out around the first of the year, and it's not going to cost you anything else. We're still going to have that same price. Cool. You know, it just wasn't frugal to try to do it at the beginning because it was going to cost us more for the parts, and then we were going to bring the price of the gun up, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to hit that area where we're at in the market.
Very cool. So something to look forward to from Pioneer Arms, and you guys that had the question about putting the braces on there. There you go. You probably want to get a good gunsmith to do that for you, so it's done properly.
Yeah. You're going to have to order a solid rear trunnion for that to be able to get it drilled and put on. I mean, we'll actually have some of those around the first of the year that we'll be selling, and I'll get some to the show here that you can give out and stuff, especially the customers and stuff that we get guns to. I'll make sure that we get those rear trunnions to that if they want to go ahead and modify their guns for that. But yeah, definitely get a gunsmith to do it, and don't beat your gun up with a hammer and then send it back to me saying, "Hey, this is
AKs are tough, but just don't beat them just to be beating them."
Yeah,
especially if you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and we don't recommend that being done without a certified gunsmith on it. Hey, to get back on the other thing here, we were talking about doing the gun giveaway and everything else, and you know what's one of my favorite places that I like to stop to when I go across country is Gallup, New Mexico.
Gallup, New Mexico.
So that being said, I think that plays right into Jonathan, does it not?
It does. Jonathan Gallup, also known as Giddy Up, because you have just basically dominated the social media with all your posts, all your shares, all your likes. I think hands down, and you other guys will agree. I mean, you see Jonathan everywhere on our social media. He's also interacting with you guys, asking questions, getting conversations going. And that's what we want to see. So, Giddy Up, congratulations, buddy. You just won the Blackout Cerakote Customs Pioneer Arms Hell Pup AK-47. That's a mouthful.
And I think I have a couple. We had like 10 T-shirts made.
Oh, yeah?
And I might have one of those rare T-shirts laying around that I could throw in there also.
Very nice. So, guys, participation pays off. If you want to know what he did, just go to our social media and you'll see him everywhere. Pierce, you've done an excellent job. Jerry Black, John Adams, all you guys are still doing great. Big Papa, Ezekiel E, you guys have been doing phenomenal. Keep it up. We still have a boatload of AKs to give away, guys. So there's still plenty of opportunities for you lead heads to own one of these beautiful AK-47s from Pioneer Arms Corp.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and the little oil bottle that Marco was talking about earlier in the show with the oil and the solvent in it, your AK kit's going to have it. It's going to have your magazines, your cleaning rod. It'll also, I'll dig out one of these T-shirts and we'll have that in there. Hey guys, it's been great being on the show. I really love the participation and stuff that's going on. I like to pride myself on the customer service and stuff we have here. We may not be the most pleasant talking individuals when you get to talk to us. We really don't have a lot of social skills, but we will make sure we take care of your gun if there's any issue. So,
very good.
So I just want to make sure we put that out there.
All right, so big thanks to CJ. Like I was saying, you guys make sure you go and Pioneer Arms USA and thank them for making this show possible, and all the awesome guests that we have, the giveaways that they're doing, and just the fact that they're bringing this awesome platform to America. They're one of the few that are importing those in and doing the quality AK-47s. All right, congratulations, Giddy Up. You definitely exemplified what we are looking for as far as participation goes with this AK Korner segment that we're doing, and you guys can take notes from Giddy Up. Just kind of go back to all his comments and everything he's done on not just the AK Korner, but our regular show, the Talking Lead podcast, as well. I mean, he is all over the place. So it just made sense that Giddy Up would win this special one that we're giving away. And as CJ said, I mean, there could be another one coming up, another special giveaway coming up in some later episodes. But Marco, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. We greatly appreciate it. If you get the opportunity, we'd love to have you on again sometime too.
Oh, sure. And thank you for having me. And I hope I could, answer some questions and stuff. Like I said, I'm always open. And if you have I'll be glad to come out and talk guns some more. And,
Okay.
It's much better than doing other stuff. So
It's
okay.
better than real work, right?
Right.
So Marco is going to give one of his books away. Which book are you going to give away, Marco?
The latest one is the AK-47, the Survival and Evolution.
Okay, very cool. So we're going to go through and just randomly, I'm going to go through, let's go to Facebook. And I think we should give that to Pierce. I think Pierce W. Taylor, because he had several questions that he had posted for you, and we only read a couple of those, but I think, with your explanations, you covered a lot of them. So, Pierce, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. That's Pierce W.J. Taylor, and we'll get you a copy of Marco's book there. So, thank you so much for that. You guys, as always, make sure that you support those that support the Talking Lead podcast. Pioneer Arms Corp, making this show possible for you lead heads every month. Check them out. pioneerarms-pac.com is their website. And, of course, they're on the social medias as well.
Just to mention something, we are working on bringing a Tula ammunition in, as well as a Surgeon Major ammunition.
Oh, okay.
It's coming in, starting to come in next month.
Oh, nice.
And so we would like to maybe, once the ammo hits the ground here, we would love to maybe donate a case or two for giveaways as well.
That would be awesome. So, yeah, we will definitely, once that ammo hits, get in touch with me, and we'll have you on, and then you can give it a plug, and then we'll pick a lucky winner to get some ammo.
That would be great. I'd love to do that.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Marco. That's very cool. So, Leadheads, keep those suggestions. Keep your interactions with us going on. We're going to continue to give away AKs. We're going to be giving away items from people who are on our guest of our show, like Marco just gave away one of his books. We got some ammo that we're going to be doing in upcoming. I know we've got some accessories and parts from some other upcoming guests, future guests, that we're going to be giving away to you Leadheads as well. So the more you participate, the more you share this, the more people you get involved with it, the bigger and greater the show's going to be, and so are the givebacks. So again, thanks to my host Schwell. Schwell had to jump off, but he will be back next month with me for another episode of the Talking Lead AK Korner, presented by Pioneer Arms Corp.